New York City. If you could ride here, you could ride anywhere. Let's talk about it. Alright, what's going on YouTube? FXDLS Brooklyn is back in the building. Coming at you from Queens Boulevard out here in Queens, New York City. Wrapping up some errands out here and figured I'd shoot a little video because I made a couple videos lately about talking about some of the struggles and some of the challenges of being a biker out in New York City, and how a lot of times riding out here is more like a battle, more like a fight than it is actually enjoying your motorcycle. So I had a subscriber write into me and say, well, FXDLS Brooklyn, if it's such a fight and it's such a struggle, what's the point of even owning a motorcycle in the city? And I figured I wanted to make a video addressing one of the biggest benefits you get from actually being a biker out in New York City. So let's start the bike and let's keep it moving. So I've covered the benefits of having a motorcycle within New York City before. Like, that's content I've done before. I don't retract any of my statements about that. But like I said, lately I have covered some of the challenges of being a biker within the confines of New York City. And yes, as you can see, it is not without its challenges. You have to constantly be on your toes out here. Constantly be on the lookout for every bit of constant hazards out here. Every corner out here, every curve is an opportunity for things to go wrong. So one of the things when I come back from my bike trips, I was recently on a bike trip that I realized when I get back to my hometown in New York City is it's kind of jarring those first couple miles when you cross over the GW Bridge and you're thrown back into the New York groove, as we call it. After you've been enjoying pleasant miles, long, wide open miles for over 2 weeks, it's a jarring experience to get back to the New York groove. Anyone who does the bike trips from out here in New York City is going to tell you that. But one of the things I could say about being a biker out in New York City, and one of the biggest benefits that you get, is out of all the riding conditions I've put myself through, and that's going cross country multiple times, that's crossing international borders, that's riding through hail, riding through extreme heat, riding through everything. The riding that you have to deal with, the conditions that you have to deal with out here in New York City is by far some of the most challenging conditions and riding that you're gonna have to deal with if you are a biker out of New York City. And what that does is when I am on the road on my bike trips, it makes my tolerance for hard situations on my motorcycle extremely high. It very much hardens you as a rider when you are subjecting yourself to these types of miles on a regular basis. So, to answer the question of why does it make sense to even own a motorcycle in New York City, one of them is just straight up, it will harden you so much as a rider. It will make you, just like this right here, like having to look out for stuff like this, it'll make you such a better rider to be able to survive these conditions on a regular basis. And again, for me, I most notice that, and that it most presents itself when I take myself out of New York City and I put myself in any other riding condition. That's when I realize the gains that you get of having to survive the New York City miles. Because like I said, when I am on the road, like this most recent bike trip, it was a challenging bike trip, man. Like, don't get me wrong, it was not, there was a lot of hard miles on that bike trip. We were riding in the south during extreme heat. You know, it's the July of 2023, we were full on in a heat wave, and there was not one moment on that bike trip where even within all the challenging situations that we were dealing with, where I felt like things were as challenging as they are, say, in this situation right here in my hometown in New York City. If your default riding condition is nothing but hard miles, which is what it is out here in New York City, then like I said, when you find yourself in any other riding condition, it feels easy. You know, I can't say it any more clearly. Subjecting yourself to hard miles on a regular basis, which is being a biker out in New York City, will 100% make you a better rider and a harder rider. Your tolerance for what constitutes a hard situation on the bike will 100% be raised, which is most helpful when you find yourself doing the real miles, taking your bike on the long road, because boy, does it get challenging out there. So the best analogy I could give you, times in my life, whether I've been doing team sports or something individual such as jiu-jitsu, anything competitive, right? If I ever wanted to get truly better, say in a team sport, the best way I always found to get better, for example, if like, you know, you're getting ready for a competition and your team needs to practice. Look at this. Amazing. The best way to prepare for any sort of competition, or the best way to just become better, I found, was when we were practicing as a team, to be practicing against teams that were just significantly better than us. You know, you'd go and whether you're scrimmaging or just practicing against teams that would wipe the floor with you, you know, and just losing, you know, within practice, constantly getting your handed to you. And then what would happen is when the big game would come around, or you'd be facing an unfamiliar team, you would just destroy them, because what you're used to is, again, just going against a team that's just rocking you at every turn. So is it fun to consistently lose and get your ass kicked? No, it's not. But the payoff is then when you are in the real deal, when you are out there in unfamiliar terrain, suddenly that's when you realize how much better you've gotten just by subjecting yourself to hard and challenging situations. The same thing I find is true of motorcycling. If your default is hard miles, is hard conditions like the one I'm in right now, then when you find yourself on the long road facing new challenges, number one, you're either already mentally and physically conditioned for it, and number two, it's gonna have to get pretty bad to be worse than what you're experiencing as a biker out of New York City on a daily basis. So, to answer the question of why it still makes sense to own and ride a motorcycle within the confines of New York City, given all the challenges that I talk about, that's one of the biggest reasons I could say, which is like, if you are a real biker, if you are about putting in the real miles, if you do bike trips, that is one of the biggest payoffs I think you could find, which is, again, it will make you a harder and a stronger rider. But to put in some positive mental attitude within all this, you have to change your mindset about what riding in the city is. And the way I look at it, from someone who, this is my hometown miles, this is my default riding condition, this is home for me, is you need to look at this type of riding not so much as I'm going out to enjoy my ride. Every time I survive this, every time I am able to successfully navigate this, it's almost like practice for getting out there and hitting the road, and just knowing that you are sharpening and hardening your skills. Because one of my favorite quotes, you know, within the jiu-jitsu world is iron sharpens iron. And the only way that you are going to become a harder rider and a better rider is to challenge yourself and put yourself in hard and challenging riding conditions. And New York City does that better than any other place I've been able to find on a motorcycle. So, are you going to be hitting sweepers and twisties and moving and putting a smile on your face out here? Absolutely not. Are you going to be fighting to survive? Is it going to be a constant battle? Yes, it is. Is it gonna be fun? Usually not. A lot of times not fun. Like, look at this, totally torn up. But will it harden you as a rider? Will it sharpen your riding skill? 100%. And again, that is what I find is one of the biggest payoffs of pushing yourself to ride your motorcycle within a challenging environment such as New York City. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. As always, whether you're riding in the city or in the country, stay safe and stay low. Challenge yourself to grow as a rider, challenge yourself to grow as a person. And on that, FXDLS Brooklyn is out.